Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at HIMS and HERS health. It is time for another update and it seems we have broken the area of support we were tracking for continuation higher within this structure. But fortunately, luckily, we managed to get a recovery. Luckily, this wasn't a sustained break and we can still salvage this scenario, because if we manage to form this, to hold this as the significant low, as the low point, as the wave B bottom, and we don't form another low within this area, it can still work out, especially as we did manage to also get back into the area of support. Now, it certainly is within a very vulnerable position. If we fall below this structure, I will instantly shift to the other scenario that we have been mentioning in the previous videos. Yeah, I don't really see a case where we actually fall below the current bottom within this area and we still follow this interpretation. I don't really see a case where this happens, to be honest. But before we go through all these structures, through all the data, I want to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we have been tracking this idea of a larger leading diagonal to take place within this structure to the upside. Within it, we have so far completed a wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, and now we would be within the larger wave 3 to the upside. And this is a very strong preference. Yeah, I strongly believe that this third wave cannot really have a full count as of now, and not really within any interpretation, because I would need to have an ABC structure in this area to have it work out. I could consider the wave 3 to be mostly done, but I would still need another high to basically have a full count. Now, in the current interpretation, we assume that the wave A has stopped here, we have a wave B bottom here, and we would be tracking a 5-wave move to the upside within this area. It would be within an ending diagonal, and within it, we would need to build an ABC structure in this 5th wave to have a full pattern. Now, the failure scenario assumes that the wave A had instead stopped here. We would have this as a wave B, and this would have only been the initial wave 1 to the upside part of a larger wave C. This would be a long-term, more bullish interpretation, more bullish scenario, but it wouldn't necessarily have the same likelihood to work out. It would very likely have a more difficult structure to track. It would very likely be a downgrade in my eyes, to be honest. Now, within this structure, we are still looking for this 5th wave once again, as long as we hold the current bottom within the wave B correction. At the moment, I'm still favoring this, but if we are to fail holding it, we would need to be prepared to retrace into the 78.6% retracement for the larger correction area. We already have the 61.8% retracement on the chart, because this was a wave 4 after this wave 3. Yeah, it would have the same area of support for an ABC structure. It would basically match the higher levels, yeah, but the 78.6% retracement would be an addition, because that is not something we would track within a correction in a wave 4. Now, that would allow it to go all the way down to the $19.4 level before considering an even wider failure, where realistically I don't even see a reliable interpretation on this chart if we fail to hold even that. But yeah, for now, I wouldn't necessarily concern myself with that too much, because this structure can still be salvaged. Now, again, it is within a very vulnerable structure, but we still are tracking this potential initial 5-wave move to the upside within the wave A, and we have already evidence that this structure does like to push below the last level of support. Within the wave 4 correction, we did push below the 61.8% retracement before creating the reversal to the upside. And it wasn't just any reversal, it was an initial 5-wave move that we could have tracked within this wave A. Now, of course, we have broken once again below the last level of support, and we would like to see the same pattern occur, but I cannot guarantee you that. Yeah, I can never actually provide a guarantee that the market will play in one way or the other, but we can track the relevant levels of support for continuation in certain patterns. Now, since the wave B has formed a new low, we would need to have an updated ideal target for the wave C, because that heavily depends on the wave B. Now, that would be now still the 100% extension of the wave A, but it is at the $82 level instead. I remember when we had formed the initial structure that could have formed the bottom within this area, we were looking for something like the $96 level. It has decreased. Now, of course, this is an ideal target, and it's not something we must absolutely reach for this wave C to be considered complete, We also don't need to stop there, we could get even an extension, but it is certainly a level the wave C is drawn towards. Now, within this structure, we don't necessarily need to look too much into the targets, into the ideal target. We will have a better idea of what we should expect once we are within this wave C, and we will be able to have an estimation of the structure of the count, when we should expect to form a likely top. Now, in the smaller time frame, in this area, we have been tracking this as an ABC structure ever since we actually bottomed in this movement. Yeah, we could have considered a bottom to be in place. We did already hit the 50% retracement at that point, but the structure to the upside was very unreliable. We had formed here this choppy mess that was suggesting to us with high likelihood that we should expect a 3-wave correction and an extension in another 5-wave move to the downside within this area. We also had this initial wave A that could have even been considered an initial 5-wave down, which, yeah, all put together, was suggesting with higher likelihood continuation in a larger correction. We didn't even manage to break the area of resistance. We got a week above it, but yeah, we fell immediately back down basically within the same day. Yeah, a couple of 4-hour candles that had their wicks above this level, nothing too significant. Yeah. Now, within this structure, we were looking for possible bottoms along the way, but right now I would consider this structure to the downside very likely complete. I really don't see any additional lows that would be necessary, but this has certainly been the case for a while now, and we have still been extending, so we do need to be prepared for further continuation lower. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of clarity in the smaller time frame, and the best area of resistance that I can provide you would be here for a larger wave 3 to be in place within this larger correction, in this orange interpretation that we will track to even lower prices. And I have to say, in the previous video, within this structure, in the orange interpretation, we were still tracking additional extensions lower, and we did get it. But I would even consider that this might have been an impulse to the downside that we can now track for further extensions lower. Within this pattern, I really don't need any additional lows to consider it complete. I really see the structure as quite full, and I would mostly focus on a possible wave 3 to have bottomed within this area. Now, does that mean we cannot extend lower? Certainly not. It might be even better if we are to fail holding in the end, because yeah, if we get an early break right now below the current bottom we have in this area, it would be an early signal that this structure is going to fail. But ultimately, I would still be looking for a push into a larger area of resistance for a correction within the wave 4. Within the orange interpretation, we will from now on continue to track the scenario that looks for a failure of the yellow case, the yellow interpretation. And for this, we will be watching here the levels for a wave 4 correction between the $34 all the way up to the $42.8 level. A break above the 50% retracement would be a strong signal that a more significant bottom would be in place. Not a confirmation. For that, I would actually need to see an initial 5-wave move to the upside. That would be ideal. That would give us strong confidence in this structure succeeding in this wave C to the upside. And it doesn't even need to be within such a large time frame. It could be something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5th. We don't really even need to break the area of resistance while building it. Yeah, it would be feasible to work with something like this even. Now, in the current upside from the current low, I am looking for the initial internal 5-wave structure, but I want you to keep in mind that this is within a very tiny time frame. This is not going to provide us a reliable trade setup, yeah? It is extremely fragile, and I would consider this to be a potential impulse even, where this could be a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, a 3rd wave up, 4th wave down, and then a 5th wave. Is it possible for this to be a singular wave 1 and have a wave 2 and a 3rd wave within this area? Well, not necessarily, but it could certainly be something like an ABC structure. So beware, this count doesn't need any additional extensions, but I would track continuation higher within this idea of a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and a 5th. This would be again within the yellow interpretation, which we are tracking for a push higher. And for support, I would be watching the levels between the $30.5 all the way down to the $30 level. Once again, we are watching the $30 level. Now, so far, we can see we got to the area of support. We did so within a 3-wave pattern, but I do want to remind you once again, because this is so important, I want to stress it. This is an incredibly small time frame. I could maybe even consider this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and a 5th, and this to be another 4, 5, where we would need to consider this to be the entire 3rd wave to the upside. I could allow let's say, a larger correction within this structure, all the way down to the $20.8 level. But is this going to really change anything? Not necessarily. In the end, I don't want a sustained break below the $30 area. I want to see continuation higher. And if we manage to build here a potential initial 5-wave move to the upside, I would be looking with high likelihood for a 1-2 setup internally. That is what we want to see. I hope we actually get to that. But in terms of smaller time frame resistance, I would provide you some levels, but they're not going to provide very valuable setups, very valuable levels to actually track for the continuation lower. I could look at this as something like 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th. I could provide you the potential for a 1-2 setup in this area, in which case the levels of resistance would start at the $32.4 level instead. Yeah, we could have here such an area, but is this going to be the most likely interpretation? I don't necessarily believe it. I would expect to get into higher levels anyway. I would expect to get into the larger area of resistance for the wave 4 anyway, but sure, an extension lower could occur. We could watch here the $32.4 level for it to begin. It would be the first level I could technically see form a reversal for us. But for now, there really isn't much else to add. These are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover. And I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.